Hey everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel, and today I, Frankie, am going to be discussing and nitpicking the hell out of Ratatouille. It's one of my favorite movies, and I had a really good time recently rewatching it for the first time in a while. So if you'd like to stick around and watch me talk about it and, you know, just get into all the nice juicy details of this movie, you're very welcome to stick around and watch this video. Before we jump into that though, I do have social media, so if you'd like to check out my Instagram, I will have that linked down below in this video. You're also very welcome to check out the rest of my YouTube channel. I've been making a whole bunch of different kinds of videos, and it's just been bringing me a lot of joy recently. So if you'd like to check that out, you're welcome to click that bell icon and get subscribed to see more of my face on a regular basis. Alrighty, so instead of just like beating around the bush, I'm gonna jump right on into this content because I have a sneaking suspicion this is going to be one of those long videos that's like an hour long because I have 9 pages of notes. So let's do the damn thing. So we start off Ratatouille, the movie, with this news broadcast. So Gusteau just died, and it's giving us like a little bit of history behind it. And then all of a sudden we're brought into like the reality of the situation in this small French village somewhere on the outskirts of Paris with a rat breaking through a window in a house, which is very random, and that is our first shot of our main character, Remy, who is narrating over the top of the situation that's currently happening at hand, where he's trying to escape this old woman's house with a cookbook. What a weird way to start a movie, but I love it. Remy's basically giving us a little bit of rundown on how his rat nest and family work together, and he became the official poison checker because he almost, he saved his father from almost being killed. So Remy has this job that he hates. I can relate to that right now. I hate my job, and I'm actually trying to switch jobs because they won't listen to a damn thing that I have to say, but that's just me being annoyed for the day. Remy is the poison checker for his rat clan, and he wants more from life. He wants to be a famous chef. So him and his little brother, I believe his name is Emile, they break into this old lady's kitchen, and Remy uses a cookbook to try and like put together this dish. Remy takes a whole bunch of ingredients from like the garbage and this old lady's spice rack, and they put it together, and I love so much that he went up onto the roof and then decided the best way to cook this like mushroom concoction was in a lightning storm, and him and Emile both get hit by lightning. I want to cook something with lightning now. Not to the point that I get electrocuted, but I want to cook something with lightning. That sounds like a genuinely interesting, like, personal project. So consider that on my bucket list now. Thank you very much, Remy. They cook this interesting concoction, but in the meantime, they also get found out by the old lady whose house they've been like using for a cook station and inspirational pit stop. And she basically shoots the ceiling of her own living room down on top of herself with a shotgun, which was a crazy fast scene that I love so much, but it's like a rush of emotions and things happening all at once. And this entire rat's nest falls down in the middle of her living room, and why she thinks it's a good idea to take a shotgun to a giant cloud of rats, I have no idea. She doesn't hit any of them, but she does separate Remy from his family as they're all trying to escape on boats. Rats with boats. Okay, that's a concept I never thought that I would have to think about or see in my life, but they have rat boats. There's this really intense moment where Remy is going into the sewer system, and he like gets flushed away down the sewer system with his cookbook, ends up in the sewer, and is like waiting for his family to show up. Nothing happens. So he starts hallucinating a conversation with the ghost of the chef who died. The guy Gusteau that I mentioned at the very beginning, who's the news broadcast was about, he died, and now Remy is having these like interesting imaginary conversations with the man's ghost in different situations. it's a whole side plot line of like Remy's imagination coming to life, and the ghost of Gusteau basically tells Remy to stop huddling and like hiding in the sewers and to actually go up and explore the city that he's in. He finds out that he ended up underneath Paris, not just anywhere in Paris. Remy ended up underneath Gusteau's restaurant in the center of Paris. That's like a sign, y'all, that he's supposed to be a chef, because it's very specific, all of these places and things and stuff happening at the same time. The only chef that Remy has any sort of connection to is Gusteau, and he ends up under Gusteau's restaurant out of all of the famous chefs in Paris. Okay. So Remy decides to go and take a look at what's happening inside Gusteau's restaurant, and he's sitting on this like ceiling vent thingy, and he's watching what's happening in the kitchen and naming all of the different people that work in the kitchen, the positions they hold. And then we're introduced to our other main character, Linguine, who just got hired on at Gusteau's restaurant as like the porter or dishwasher, garbage taker-outer child. And I just have to say, as a fellow dishwasher and trash taker-outer person, we do actually have a really vital role in the kitchen, even though nobody knows that we exist. So for all of you trash taker-outer children and dishwashers, I see you, bitch. I know the hard work that you do, and I do it too. As we're simultaneously being introduced to Linguine, we're also being introduced into one of our antagonists. I actually don't know what his name is. He's the protege of Gusteau, the shorter chef who's now in charge of Gusteau's kitchen. And I call him No Name Chef because I genuinely don't know what his name is. In the entirety of this movie, I can't recall what it is. We're introduced to Linguine, we're introduced to No Name. Sorry, sir, that your name is No Name in this video, but I'm a dumb American. What can I say? French names just go right over my head. Apologies. All of them come crashing together in this situation because... Hold on, I gotta sneeze. So Remy gets trapped in the kitchen and there's this like really intense escape scene, but as he's leaving, he notices that Linguine is like messing with the soup, and he smells the soup and it smells like rank or something. He goes back and he tries to fix it, and that's when he gets into the whole like flipping and tricking thing and fixes the soup. A rat breaks into a four-star Michelin star sounds like a weird sentence, but I'm gonna go with it, restaurant, and he like remakes the soup, which I just gotta say, that little scene where he's like flipping over the soup and like doing his little cartwheels and there's this like magical music is so amazing. And then the cherry on top of that situation, he like does all of this stuff. He flips and he does his little tricks and he makes the soup taste delicious. Nobody notices him for like a really weirdly long amount of time. No chef notices him, but then Linguine is just standing there like watching him do all of this stuff. And it goes from Remy being like, haha, I'm in this magical dreamland where my music is perfect and the soundtrack is amazing and everything is working out and my creation is being created. And then he goes, oh shit, someone's watching me, and he like turns his head and he's like, fuck. But Linguine catches Remy in this like container thing. Protege, No Name face dude comes over and tastes the soup and is like, you are cooking, but it's good. One question I did have is like, where the fuck is the saucier? The guy that's supposed to be making sauces? While Remy and Linguine are doing their whole like trick and flipping, making the soup fantastic thing, where's the guy that's supposed to be at that station? Is he on a smoke break or some shit? Cause like, bro, you're supposed to be doing your job and you're just absent for some reason, letting this rat make a soup in a 4-star Michelin restaurant. Like, what? So that soup that Linguine and Remy like weirdly crafted together actually gets served to a food critic, and somehow this food critic loves the soup so much that it like puts a spotlight on Linguine, who has to take credit for Remy's soup, obviously, because a rat can't make soup, as the universe would have us believe. The guy that has no name, instead of firing Linguine, tells him that you have to remake the soup and like wow me, or then you're fired, because that's, I guess, how you run a kitchen. In this exact moment though, while Linguine is having all the like praises shown his way, Remy is trying to escape out the window, and they notice him and they catch him in a jar, and then Linguine is told to go kill Remy by basically like, I think he was supposed to toss him in the river, in the Seine, in a jar. But that's not really an efficient way to kill a rat. I don't know. Anyway, he can't do it. He has too big a heart. And also he saw the whole like crazy soup flipping creation thing. So he's like having a conversation with Remy, and Remy is responding. Instead of killing Remy and then Remy like running away as Linguine set him free, they decide to team up together and become this like chef duo. Linguine decides to give Remy a place to stay so that they can make the soup together again, because that's what he's been tasked with, to make the soup again, and he's like, I don't know how to do that, so I'm just gonna let this rat live with me so that I can learn how to make a soup again. Okay. The next day, when Linguine goes back into work, the day that he has to remake the soup, I find it so weird that Linguine and Remy didn't think about how they were gonna get Remy into the 4-star Michelin restaurant unseen, because literally there's this shot where Linguine's like pulling his pants back, being like, here, I could put you in my boxers. What? And then a hilarious scene ensues where Remy is like running around on Linguine's body and biting him in random places, and Linguine is like slapping him. That was hilarious. One, at the end of that, where Linguine just screams for a couple of seconds in a walk-in, and nobody comes in to check on him. But also I have to point out, whoever did the character like body animations for when Linguine is running around and like slapping himself and trying to like hit Remy in that scene, I have to say kudos, because that A, looks really fun to animate, and B, super complicated. So kudos to whoever worked on that, because you did a really excellent job. It's almost like the inflatable tube man body motions, because he's so loose and fluid. I really love it. Somehow, out of the blue, Remy and Linguine come to this realization that if Remy sits on Linguine's head and pulls specific locks of his hair, he somehow turns into this weird humanoid hair puppet master, which is a very interesting idea, but I'm very glad to say that when people pull on specific locks of your hair, you don't actually like move around like Linguine does in the rest of this movie. They figure out that, then they spend the rest of the evening practicing and like cutting things, pouring wine, learning how to cook together. Linguine with blindfold on so he can get used to just having his motion dictated by a rat on his head. And it's actually, they get really good at it. In one evening, they go from complete novice, almost cutting off Linguine's hand with a giant knife, to being able to function properly in a kitchen. And it's a nice transition. Good for you, dudes. We're finally truly introduced to our, I would say she's one of the main characters, Colette. And okay, this particular moment when we finally get to meet her, and she is the most badass, scary version of herself, I was just like chuckling in fear to myself when I saw her do this scene. Colette takes her series of extremely sharp chef's knives and stabs them into Linguine's sleeve, the sleeve of his chef's coat, and basically sticks him to the table surface all the way up to his shoulder. She terrifies me and is also one of the hottest characters in this entire movie. She has the most badass queen energy in the universe. I worship at her feet. I want to be that scary. And also I desperately want Colette to go out on a date with me, but she's an animated character and I can't have that. So the chef that I can't remember the name of, he's making these like knockoff Gusto fast food things, which is just one other way to make me hate this character, because fast food is the enemy, even though I eat fast food almost every single lunchtime. Anyway, he's turning Gusto's like 4-star Michelin reputation into a fast food chain for a whole bunch of appropriated cultures, and he's almost kind of losing his mind too, because ever since the night that Remy came into the restaurant and like broke in, basically, chef with no name has been seeing rats everywhere, and he thinks that he's losing his mind, but he's actually seeing Remy like running around. Okay, there's some crap going on about Linguine and Gusto and the lawyer and chef that has no name. I can't be bothered to remember and talk about it because it's a boring, anxiety-inducing part of this movie, so we're just gonna move on. Colette and Linguine are like getting along and they're trying to work together, and Colette is teaching Linguine how to operate in a kitchen, how to keep his station clean and wash his dishes, and how to find the best bread, and just like different tips on being a chef in a kitchen, and it's really interesting to watch their relationship evolve. So then the chef that has it out for Linguine, no name, so he gives Linguine the impossible task of creating a recipe, sweetbreads, that apparently is bad. Something about organ meat, and no thank you. Remy creates a dish that's all his own, and then it becomes a success, and every single person in the kitchen is ordering that specific dish, which shows even more a spotlight on Linguine and makes him seem like this rock star chef, even though he's just riding on Remy's coattails. Remy gets reunited with his brother Emile because, as I mentioned before, he got separated from his family in the beginning of this movie, but he runs into his brother outside of Gusto's and tries to teach him about food. Simultaneously, the chef with no name is trying to somehow make Linguine drunk enough that he's going to confess about having something to do with a rat, which doesn't make any sense. Getting somebody drunk on wine, especially really old wine, doesn't seem like the best technique for trying to wheedle information out of a person. He didn't get any information out of Linguine, he just made his employee really, really drunk. And while that's happening, Remy's back home. The new rat nest. He's at home with the new rat nest family, and his dad and him get into a tiff about how bad humans are, because Remy's been around humans now and spent some time with them. His father is like, I need to teach you how the real world works. So Remy's father takes Remy to a rat killing shop. That's essentially what it is. It's a poison shop, and there's literally the window display is dead rat bodies. I feel like that would smell. I wouldn't want to work there. Anyway, Remy, instead of being like listening to his father, who's like, this is how life is. Humans are bad to rats, and rats just have to learn how to survive and avoid humans as much as possible. That's all that we have. That's all that the future will be for us. Remy's like, no, the future is change. It is the nature of the universe to change and grow and evolve. And he wants that. So he defies his dad, and instead of like walking with his family on 4 legs, he walks away from his father on 2 legs, because that's like his thing. He likes to walk on 2 legs, which segues into a really, really funny, like tiny tidbit of the movie where Remy's walking down the sidewalk, and I gotta scratch my ear. And he actually like makes finger guns and goes, hey, at a French dude like in the morning who's riding past him with baguettes and a bicycle, and the dude smacks into a car. Now my question is, when Remy said hey in English, did the guy hear him? Or was it just a rat doing this at him that made him hit a car? Because either one, I feel like a combination would probably do the trick, or just the finger gun walking thing. But I'm wondering if he heard English. I don't know. I don't know. What do you think? So Linguine was at the restaurant all night long. He was tasked with cleaning up all the dishes and the countertops and the floors and the entirety of the kitchen from the night before, while also being completely drunk on a bottle of wine. Super fun. Love it when bosses do things like that. And Remy comes in, finds him asleep on the floor, reanimates his corpse, and they continue to clean the kitchen. Colette then comes in really early, and Linguine is still asleep. Like, Remy has complete control of all of his limbs, but Linguine is fully asleep. And Colette tries to ask him questions, but because he like snores in her face, she slaps him and is like, fuck you, I don't want to deal with this like pig man. Screw this. Runs out, but Linguine chases after her because he was just like rudely awoken by being slapped in the face, and he was like, what the hell? Colette, no! Runs after her. This scene is so funny to me, and as a person who carries pepper spray and would not like to be approached by a man being as weird as Linguine is in this moment, the faces Colette is making are truly gold. But this whole interaction where Linguine is trying to explain how his little chef, aka Remy, works and how he has talent in the kitchen is such a funny scene, but Remy is brilliant. Hair magician trick to lean Linguine over to kiss Colette, and we have our first romantic moment of the movie. There's actually this really nice aerial shot too that like lifts away from their bodies, and we get to see the Gusteau's like back courtyard and them leaning over Colette's motorcycle kissing. Another reason that I love Colette, she has a motorcycle. I love motorcycles. So Colette is my favorite character in this movie, if that's not blatantly obvious. We're finally introduced to one of our other main characters who only comes in halfway through the movie, except like a tiny mention of him right at the beginning, and that is Scary Casket Man, aka Ego. The reason I call him Scary Casket Man is because A, he looks like a corpse, B, his office is a literal casket shape, C, he has a skull-shaped typewriter. His aura radiates like a goth older gentleman, and I am super down. Big fan. The shorter chef is having a breakdown because he finds out that Linguine is actually Gusteau's son. There's DNA proof, and he's like losing his mind a little bit in the office because it means he'll lose the 4-star restaurant and also his line of Gusteau themed fast foods because he can't have the name Gusteau anymore, apparently. Something about the will, I don't know. Linguine's in charge and he doesn't know it yet. Then we get a little bit more of Linguine and Colette like falling in love and being cute together, but at the same time, Linguine is kind of ignoring Remy and like leaving him to his own devices, and also forgot to like hold on to him when they were zipping along on a motorcycle because Remy flies off. Remy actually discovers that Linguine is Gusteau's son because he's inside Gusteau's office, which, oh my god, we get a visual of all of the stereotypes of the different foods that the chef was basically ripping off to make his like fast food brand food, and it pisses me off. While Remy is in Gusteau's office though, he does grab a hold of the really important papers when the chef with no name pops into the office and sees Remy and finally gets confirmation that he hasn't just been like hallucinating this entire movie, that there's a rat running around in his kitchen. And Remy takes these really important documents, runs out of this place. This is an amazing scene, but I have a question. So the chef, the shorter chef, who's like chasing after Remy, he's the bad character. He steals this dude's Vespa, which, that's rude. Please don't steal people's Vespas. But I have to ask, this particular staircase, do you think that falling down this staircase, this Vespa would still be able to like physically run? Because I have just a sneaking suspicion, after being in a couple of motorcycle crashes myself, this staircase would have totaled both the chef and the Vespa. I slid on gravel going like 15 miles an hour and it wrecked my bike. It almost wrecked my right arm too, so this staircase would have killed both of these bits. Just saying, personal experience, but I don't know, what do you think? I've never actually ridden a Vespa, so I could be wrong. They might be strong little and I just don't know it. Remy escapes. He somehow uses these really important documents from Gusteau's will as like wings to float away from the antagonist chef that I don't remember the name of. These documents he gave to Linguine, who then finds out that he's Gusteau's son, and then his whole life changes because he's given access to his father's restaurant and he's now the owner of the restaurant. He's now the owner of the fast food brand and everything changes. The chef who's been trying to create problems this whole movie is vanquished and apparently exiled from the kitchen because we don't see him there anymore. Linguine and Colette are like falling in love and all this cute shit is happening for them. Linguine also moves into this like ridiculously expensive looking apartment with a beautiful view of the Eiffel Tower, so I'm just gonna assume this place is in the millions. You lucky bastard. He has a whole bunch of good things coming his way, but at the same time, Remy is dealing with this issue where his entire family, all of the rats, are like, we need you to give us food. So he's stealing from the kitchen to give to his family, and he's having kind of like mixed feelings about that at the moment. So then, as Linguine is becoming this like famous new face in the cooking world, he's having this interview slash photo shoot, and he's desperately trying to look photogenic and kind of failing. Then we finally have a moment where Linguine and Ego, the scary casket dude who's a critic, food critic, they finally are introduced. But I have to say, this particular like instance, this particular scene, I wish they had fixed the wide shot that happened in this particular moment. So this is the shot. This is the moment that Ego enters Gusteau's restaurant and we see him backlit against the like red velvet curtains with all of the photographers. But we, in this moment, don't get to witness how Linguine and Colette react to Ego walking in the room. Ego's this really intimidating character, and we don't get to see the fear and emotion of initially reacting to Ego all in one moment. It almost feels like the room is cut in half. It's a very small scene. Only me, animation student who like pays attention to this stuff because I want to make it well, would notice that this looks awkward, but it looks awkward. So if the wide shot had just been a little bit wider and shown more of the main dining room from Gusteau's, I think it would have been an overall more impressive scene. But it's a really intimidating scene too, because Ego is like, hey, I'm gonna kick your ass with my food review. Bring it, newbie chef. But in a much scarier and cooler way than I am capable of, so there you go. Linguine and Remy fight, which means that Remy actually lets all of the rat clan into the 4-star Gusteau restaurant, and they raid the walk-in pantry. In the middle of this particular moment, Linguine happens to come back into the restaurant and like confess that he needs Remy, and he's like, I need you right now, I'm having a really hard time. Life is a lot different and I don't want to be fighting with my friend. But in that moment where they're trying to make amends, Remy's idiot brother spits a whole bunch of grapes onto the back of Linguine's neck, and Linguine sees all of the rat clan in the restaurant and he's like, oh my god, you were stealing from the restaurant, you were betraying me behind my back, and basically threatens Remy that if he comes back to the kitchen, he'll treat rats the way that kitchens are supposed to treat pests. Oh, murder! Dejected, Remy leaves with the rest of his rat family. Linguine is trying to prepare his staff the next day for like the big night with Ego coming to critique his food and, you know, have this big night for the restaurant, and he basically bores the entire staff to sleep. Boy is not good at giving speeches. And at the same time that that's happening, Remy has to save his idiot brother Emile from eating cheese that's in a rat trap. Remy gets caught in the rat trap, but the rat trap was set by the no-name chef who saw him in Gusteau's office, who's basically been chasing Remy since he stole those important documents from the will. Evil Chef at this point, I'm just gonna call him that for now, Evil Chef, takes Remy, puts him in the rat trap in the back of his trunk, and basically is like, I'm gonna blackmail you to make more fast food for me, and I won't kill you in exchange. So Evil Chef seems like the right moniker for this. As that's going down, Ego actually comes back into the restaurant. He spends a good chunk of time terrifying the waiter in this movie. Literally, just look at this pose. This body pose speaks volumes about Ego's character. He loves terrifying people. Like, holy shit, sir, you need to relax. Anyway, he sits down and waits for a dish to be served. And at that exact moment, Remy is like reminiscing with the Gusteau, like imaginary friend that he's been hanging out with. And that character basically gives him some really good advice that he never had to pretend ever. It was just him all along. And at that moment, his family decides it's a really good idea to break him out of the rat trap by smashing a whole bunch of really beautiful historical gargoyles off of a church in France and like pushing them off of their plinth or ledge or whatever the fuck it's called onto the trunk of the car, which somehow doesn't break Remy in the process, but it breaks him out of both the trunk and the rat cage. So, you know, animation physics is always there to save your ass. His father and brother break him out of the prison and the rat prison, and he immediately runs off to save Linguine's ass. Remy arrives in the kitchen and is like, I need to be here for Linguine. So Remy, this is probably one of the stupidest things I've ever seen a rat do, but he does it anyway. Remy stands in the back door of this restaurant and is like puffing his chest out, being like, I am a rat, I am here. And Linguine comes and stands in between this wall of chefs with knives who want to like murder Remy in their doorway, and is like, no, don't hurt him. He's the reason that I'm such a good chef. Because Linguine was having a meltdown. He was basically like, oh no, I don't know what to do with myself. And all of his chefs were being like, how the fuck do we cook the thing that you just cooked 2 days ago? But Remy showed up, and so Linguine's defending him, and Linguine basically tries to explain that Remy was the reasoning behind why he was so good at cooking, and because he explains about Remy, all of the chefs in the kitchen are like, we can't do this. This is too crazy. Your rat was controlling you and can cook. They all walk out, all of them. Even Colette walks out of the kitchen. Tears in her eyes, almost slaps him in the face. They all leave, and it's just Linguine and Remy left in the kitchen on the biggest night of their restaurant with one of the biggest French food critics in their main dining area. Hope springs, and Remy decides to get his whole family together and basically run the kitchen with rats, which is an amazing scene. There are so many things happening in this scene. There's so many rats doing different like food related tasks. I literally paused the movie when it showed me a wide shot and just looked at what everybody was doing in that scene because it's so detail oriented. Kudos to the entire team that made that happen. You guys are awesome. So as Remy is cooking with his family in the kitchen, Linguine is rollerblading around the restaurant and serving everybody because apparently all the wait staff walked out as well. I don't remember seeing that happen, but it's only Linguine and the rats left, and somehow they're actually kind of pulling it off. For some inexplicable reason, Colette decides to actually come back to the kitchen, and she witnesses all of these rats cooking in her kitchen and like doing all of the things. Linguine comes up and is like, oh my god, you came back. oh, thank God, I love you, blah, blah. I'm not sure why she 180'd her entire opinion about Remy and the rats cooking, but she does, and she decides to help them cook. So she asks, like, what does Remy want to cook for Ego, this big critic dude? And Remy decides on Ratatouille. Haha, the name of this freaking movie. He decides on Ratatouille, and he has a very specific way that he wants to prepare Ratatouille. So they create the dish, and it looks so freaking tasty. I want to eat it through the screen. It's amazing though, because right before they actually start cooking this dish, Colette is just like looking at the little recipe card, and this like swarm of rats brings this health food inspector who burst into the restaurant as the rats were cooking. He gets thrown into the walk-in, tied up in rope. Colette doesn't do anything. I don't know how to feel. She literally doesn't respond to this grown man being kidnapped by a swarm of rats and thrown in her walk-in freezer. I don't know how to feel, but it's so funny. So they create Ratatouille, they serve it to Linguine, and there's this amazing shot. I had to take like every single moment of this one like split second in the movie shot by shot down, so that's why I'm talking a lot, because then you get to see all the pictures. But Ego takes a bite of his food, and then he's transported nostalgia time travel-esque back to his childhood when his mother made him ratatouille after he fell off of his bike and injured his knee. And it's this whole amazing moment where he like falls in love with this dish because it has some sort of memory lock in his brain, and we see him like transform into this happy smiley version of himself, which this food critic that's very like gray and skeletal, we've never seen from this dude. He's never looked happy this entire movie, and in this one moment of like clarity, he is happy because this food is out of this world fantastic. After Ego eats his meal, Linguine and Colette actually tell him, if you want to meet the chef and you want to pay your compliments, you need to wait until all the guests have gone, and then we will introduce you to him. Strangely enough, I don't know why they decided to do this. They decided to tell the food critic that a rat was running their kitchen, and he doesn't freak out. He just sits there and he takes in all the information that they have to give him, and he watches the demonstration of how Remy created this dish in silence, maybe asking a couple questions, and then he thanks them and he leaves. That's the chillest freaking reaction to a rat creating an out of this world food dish. That's not how I would react. It's really not. But okay, you know, do you, sir? So essentially Ego was like, yeah, this is freaking amazing. Please go eat at Gusteau's. And it's a really interesting way that they end this movie, where he goes from this super intensely scary character to this like overwhelmingly warm and happy character in like a split second because of one meal. It like radically changed his character's behavior and way of interacting with the rest of the world just because of this one dish. Which seems a little far-fetched, but you know what? It's an animated movie, so we're just gonna let that slide. It's funny though, because this movie ends on an interesting note where the rats decided not to murder the health food inspector, and they let him out of the walk-in. So he actually basically shut down Gusteau's restaurant because obviously a bunch of rats kidnapped him and they were cooking in his kitchen. Also, I don't know how no one faced legal charges for this. Like, the only human face this health inspector saw was Colette's face. She didn't do anything to save him. Why is she not facing legal charges? Gusteau's got shut down, and Ego actually lost all of his credibility because he basically defended Remy and Gusteau's restaurant, but they teamed up together, and Remy now basically runs the kitchen at Ego's place. I don't know if it's the same house that had that cool coffin-shaped room, but they do have a kitchen. Every single night, Remy cooks fabulous food for, you know, affluent French foodies, I guess you would call them. Remy's happy, he's creating his dishes that he loves. Linguine's just serving tables, which is kind of interesting. That's like the culmination of the movie, and one of our main characters is kind of doing the exact same thing that he was doing in the beginning of the movie. So I like that interpretation because it's not always like you have to climb the ladder and achieve ultimate happiness. He's also happy, but he's happy just doing the same thing that he's always been doing. So I like that. Ego's happy, Remy's happy, he's got his beautiful little restaurant, and that's how this movie, Ratatouille, actually ends, on a rather nice note with the shot of his little restaurant sign. I hope you enjoyed that critique of Ratatouille. Absolute nitpickery that I just went through. It was really fun to rewatch this movie and re-go over all the fun little details that pop up throughout this movie. I hope you had an interesting time watching me talk about it. If there was anything that I didn't mention or that you found like a fascinating detail artistically, creatively, you know, if you liked it or disliked it, I would love to hear any thoughts that you have down below in the comments section. Yeah, this movie was really fun. There were a couple of places where I wish they had tweaked things a little bit, but overall, I'm a really big fan of this movie, especially the character animation. The like puppetry of the bodies is just, it's something I've never been able to master myself, which you're probably gonna get to see at some point in the future because I want to critique my own animation creations, and the puppet animation that I've made so far was like, it looked like a sleepwalking stuffed animal, so it's really bad. I hope you enjoyed this little nitpick of Ratatouille the movie. It is one of my favorite animated movies and I really enjoyed it. I hope you go take a look at that movie right now, or if you have recently or in the future. It's a really good watch. I highly recommend. I am losing the ability to talk because I think it's like been an hour and a half that I've been filming myself taking notes and stuff, so I need to go drink a cup of coffee and like rewire my brain. I hope you all are having a good one wherever you are in the world, that you're taking care of yourself, that you're taking care of your vaccination requirements, and making sure that you and your friends and family, all of your loved ones, are staying safe and healthy. I will see you all in the comment section of this video and in my next one.